Hello and welcome to the Zonal Weakness brought to you by Gono Football Fantasy, powered by Fantasy Football Scout. And of course, first, what I would like to say is Ramadan Kareem to those who are celebrating. And I hope everyone is had a good experience so far or a good start to the Ramadan. And yeah, we are back, of course, after a few weeks of break, in a sense that we were unable to do the Zonal Weakness due to certain issues that kind of altered and affected our own timeline, and it was a national thing. And I think those of you who follow politics or something like that would know that we currently went through a bit of an election, so we were kind of quite engaged, and the situation was a bit you know really volatile and uncertain. Not volatile, I would say, but uncertain. So as a result, we were not in a position to do so, but also we had our own traveling to do, because I had to go and cast my vote in a distant part of Bangladesh, at least to my hometown. So as a result, we were unable to do so. So I would like to apologize on behalf of Ghana Football for not being able to do the Zonal Weakness. And we are back again, of course, for the Zonal Weakness covering Game Week 27. So let's get straight away. And we hope that we will be able to continue this until the end of the season without any further break from our end. At least we'll try, but let's see. Yeah, but let's get started on the Game Week 27. And this is the Zonal Weakness for Game Week 27. Bethany, unfortunately, is still not able to join us. She is kind of occupied right now with personal and professional engagement. So she'll be back soon. But yeah, we continue despite that. So here it is. And if you haven't followed and liked and subscribed to our channels, we keep asking you. There's a lot of effort that goes into it. We're getting a lot of followers as well. Some people do value our work a little bit. So if you see added value, please do invite your friends. And of course, do please subscribe and follow, because anything that you do really inspires us to continue and keep doing what we're doing on a regular basis. Yeah. And all the stats that you see are taken from Fantasy Football Scout members area. It's really a good, fantastic tool. People rely on eye test, but the data kind of confirms it. And when the data informs the eye test, a combination of two factors can really enable you to climb the ranks really easily. So it's worth the investment. If you haven't, please click in the link in the description below, and you'd get a percentage of discount. And yeah, you'd be able to access the members with all the data, including the zonal data from Fantasy Football Scout. Right, moving on. This is the zonal table 1 for Game Week 27. And I think the first up, what we get to clearly see is right there. It's Chelsea versus Burnley, of course. And this is a match that is a little bit of mouth-watering, to be honest. Burnley is looking like a relegation team already. And of course, Chelsea is trying to compete in the top 4. So that's another interesting aspect, which brings us to the point that Burnley looking really weak down the right flank and the left flank, where Palmer, being the one who's recently scored a hat-trick and of course continues his good run of form, is likely to do well again this week, with Burnley, of course, conceding 34 chances down the left flank and are ranked the worst. But also in the right flank, they're also the weakest, conceding 36 chances and are ranked 1. Down the center, of course, it's not really great, but again, not bad either, conceding 17 chances and are ranked 9th. In terms of the headed conceded, I think this is where Chalobah could do really well, particularly because Burnley have conceded 21 headed chances and are ranked 4th. But from the right flank, again, Neto could again be, or Garnacho, who could also be among the assist providers, because of the fact that, from the right flank, they have conceded 65 crosses so far over the last 6 game weeks. So I think that makes it a little bit interesting, because Burnley are the second worst team in terms of the crosses conceded. Moving on to the next fixture, which is, of course, Aston Villa versus Leeds. And Aston Villa looks likely to capitalize against the Leeds attacking strength here. From the right flank and from the center, particularly, there is a bit of a concern for Leeds, conceding 19 chances and are ranked 4th. And, of course, 26 chances and are ranked 4th again. And this is where Watkins, Abrahams, Rogers, and Buendia and Maatsen are likely to occupy. Not much really from the left flank, but in terms of the left flank and the left flank, in terms of the crosses conceded, I think this is where Leeds look a little bit more vulnerable, conceding 63 down the right and 79 down the left in terms of the crosses, and are ranked second and third respectively. So I think that's a bit of a concern for Leeds, and I think this is where Aston Villa could really capitalize nonetheless. The team in form right now, Manchester United, and of course, a lot of focus is there on some of the players playing centre, particularly Bruno Fernandes and 𝐿𝐴𝐵 and 𝐸𝐸, having scored 2 fantastic goals. But also Cunha is not out of the discussion either, given his recent run of forms, and 𝐵𝐼, of course, controlling the midfield. And Everton, yeah, they look solid, and of course down the centre they are pretty strong. But if you look at the data speaks otherwise. 23 chances considered down the center, ranked second, and 22 chances considered down the right flank and ranked fifth. So I would not leave any of these 4 players, particularly Fernandes, 𝐿𝐴𝐵, 𝐸𝐸, and Cunha, out in terms of picking the Manchester United assets. They could do well again and again. There's a bit of a rhythm in the team, so they could, capitalize. But Everton is likely to really sit deep and really, prevent Manchester United from breaking the barriers. Park the bus is something that I would expect from Everton, but Everton also have the tendency to score, so that makes it a little bit interesting. So if you have any defensive assets from Manchester United, which I presume not, but if you do, I would rather bench rather than play them. Newcastle and Manchester City, and I know there is no green colors here or any highlighted section, but if you closely look at Haaland down the center and the left flank where Semenyo and Cherki is going to play, it's pretty interesting because they are ranked 6th and 7th, slightly missing out of our marking zone, which is the worst top 5. So yeah, if you see, I think if you have Haaland and Foden, just keep them, because this is where Newcastle have conceded 18 chances and are ranked 7th. And of course, if you have Semenyo, this would be again another good week in terms of the fact that down the left flank, Newcastle have considered 20 chances and are ranked 6th. So Cherki and Semenyo could do well along with Haaland and Foden. Wolves is the one who is really turning a corner, to be honest, with the recent draw. And of course, kind of a stab at the back, or kind of, left a mark or an impression against Arsenal yesterday, scoring 2 goals and then drawing the match. So yeah, they are not the one. I think this is when this started, I think back in December, when they started to turn things around a little bit. And I think that is kind of showing now. They're really performing well against the strong team. And here you would see that, Crystal Palace they're facing right now, and I would expect this match to really go down to the wire, to be honest, and it's going to be pretty interesting one. Crystal Palace could capitalize, however, on the right flank of Wolves with the 30 chances conceded and, of course, ranked second, but also in the left flank where Sarr and Munoz is occupying, they have conceded 22 chances and are ranked 4th. So yeah, this could be another interesting one. In terms of crosses, left flank is again another weak spot for Wolves. So Munoz and Sarr could do well, but Larson, not much really hopeful. But again, the data points that, in terms of the headed conceded, they could do well. Yeah, nothing much really for the Buenos, but it is what it is. Moving on to the next fixture, which is the North London derby. And a lot of us have Rice and a lot of us have Saka as well. But I think this is a fixture that could be really a goal fest or could end up being 0-0. You never know how these derby matches turn out. It's really intense and pretty heated. But Tottenham seems to have conceded 24 chances down the center and ranked the worst side in terms of all the teams if you position them only along the center. This is where 𝐙𝐨𝐧𝐚𝐥 𝐖𝐞𝐬𝐬 and, of course, Rice would be occupying. Trossard and Martinelli could do well, not marked really in our chart because they're ranked 7th, but again, 21 chances conceded down that particular side, so you could expect Trossard could do well as Martinelli. In terms of the headed conceded, I think this is where all of our favorites, Gabriel, who was also a triple captain option last week with the double game week for Arsenal, could do well again this week, following up with his assist. in terms of headed considered, there's 21 chances they have conceded and are ranked fourth. So yeah, I would expect Tottenham to be vulnerable in terms of the set pieces that Arsenal is likely to take. And yeah, you could see that they could do well. Saka with the corners could again do well because of the left flank crosses that Tottenham have considered, which is 64 and are ranked fifth. So yeah, Saka could be again in the assist book, along with Gabriel being in the score sheet, but along with Rice and Gyökeres as well. Bournemouth versus West Ham, and I think the West Ham team would likely to capitalize on the center because 19 chances have been considered by Bournemouth down the center and are ranked fourth. And again, in the left flank, also 24 chances and ranked third. So this is where Bowen, who seems to be doing, ticking really nicely, to be honest, and could pick up more points. But yeah, Matheus Fernandes or Tati could do well again in terms of 19 chances considered and a ranked fourth. So that's something that I would be looking at, particularly Bowen and Wan-Bissaka would be the ones that I would keep an eye on. For Bournemouth, of course, West Ham seems to be leaky down the right flank, conceding 29 chances and a ranked third worst. So that's something. Jimenez could do well, but they're just slightly outside our perimeters or our highlighting perimeters, and they have considered 20 chances down the left flank and a rank 6. So that's why it's not marked. But yeah, I wouldn't really rule out the possibility there. Evanilson could also do well in terms of the headed considered, because that's where Bournemouth seems to be the worst. Excuse me. But in terms of the crosses, I think this is where a little bit of concerning for Bournemouth, because West Ham, with Wan-Bissaka and Diouf providing the crosses, this is where they could do really well. And yeah, because this is, you can see that, as you can see clearly in the chart, 74 chances and 105 crosses, 74 crosses and 105 crosses down the right flank and the left flank, respectively, and ranked worst. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some of the fullbacks from Bournemouth really capitalizing on West Ham's weakness here. So West Ham's crosses are really an area that could be a concern. Krupi, if you have him, so play him with the 29 chances. But Adley is also kind of doing very well. Not really well, but ticking along again. But yeah, so I think that's something that we could keep an eye on. And I think this is quite well balanced, to be honest, if you really look at it in terms of the crosses. But yeah, don't ignore the crosses completely and just focus on the chances only. I think it's fair to say that if you really look at the whole chart across all the considered areas, I think that gives you a bit more edge in terms of picking the players on, in terms of identifying who could be the goal scorer and who could be the assist provider. Moving on to the next chart, and I think there's less green here, so I'll just quickly touch upon the ones that are really green. Nottingham playing Liverpool, and of course Salah is our all-time favorite. Seems to be now once again appearing here on the left flank, because this is where Nottingham Forest have considered 29 chances and are ranked second. But in terms of headed considered, Virgil van Dijk could do well, particularly with 23 chances considered by Nottingham Forest and are ranked second. Szoboszlai and Salah could also be in the terms of the assist provider because of the crosses that has been considered, 74 and a ranked third. So Nottingham Forest really looks a little bit vulnerable from the left flank, but also in terms of the headed considered, not much really from the center, from the right either. For Liverpool, of course, is the center that seems to be the weak spot. And this is where Igor Jesus and Gibbs-White could do well, particularly because of the fact that Liverpool have considered 20 chances and are ranked third. So that's the only one that seems to be appealing. But I don't think so a lot of players or a lot of managers really have Igor Jesus or Gibbs-White. So yeah, just that in case you have them, this could be a good chance. And Liverpool is not really looking defensively solid either, so they could likely to score. Fulham and Sunderland, this is interesting, particularly with Fulham's center and left looking a little bit shaky. 19 chances down the center, ranked fourth, and 21 chances down the left flank and are ranked fifth. This is where Mukiele, Diarra, Brobby, and Lefi could do well. Lefi's been one who's really cheap and has been ticking along, providing points every alternative or twice or 3 weeks, every 2 3 weeks. So, yeah, a good price to be really picking on. But Sunderland also could do well exploiting the weaknesses of Fulham, particularly down the right flank, where Fulham Sunderland seems to have considered 22 chances and are ranked fifth. So that's something. Not much really elsewhere, but I think in terms of the Brighton and Brentford, I would just like to draw your attention to the left flank where Dango is going to play and Coyote is going to play. And this is where Brighton seems to be a little bit weak. Not marked really because, again, it's outside the parameter of our top five. But you can see that, Brighton have actually considered 20 chances down the left flank and are ranked sixth. So Dango and Coyote could do well again. Not much really for Jensen and Shada and Thiago, but something to keep an eye on. For Brentford and for Brighton, of course, the only option that looks really promising is in terms of the crosses conceded, particularly down the right flank. This is where Mitoma and Gross would play, with Brentford conceding 62 crosses and are ranked fourth. So that's something to keep an eye on. I think the rest really doesn't really need too much of our attention, so I wouldn't be wasting too much time on it. But the chart is here, and you can have a look at it. Just pause the video if you want to really go in details and analyze it. But yeah, the ones that really stand out, we kind of already touched upon. So that's that. Excuse me. So here is the theme of the week, and I think this is fair to say that Haaland and Bowen makes it, as we discussed about Bowen's perspective, particularly the weakness down the left flank, and Haaland, of course, not really marked, but again was ranked sixth, so down the center. So that's something why he's made it. I think Ismail Assar, Bruno Fernandes, Palmer, Rogers, Salah, we have all discussed. And I think this is the strongest midfield that we could really assemble if you're really looking at only and focusing only on the zonal weaknesses. And it's fair to say that these are the players that really could stand out this week. Mukiele, Gabriel, and of course Munoz, again, in terms of the crosses and in terms of the headed conceded, are the ones that are standing out here, and that's why they make it to the team. Keller, of course, in terms of the saves, and Brentford playing Brighton. So that's another option. So I think that's that more or less. And yeah, we will be back next week again. And until then, I hope you enjoyed it. Please do give a like and subscribe, and we'll be back again, 28 again. But till then, Ramadan Kareem to once again to all the followers who are celebrating or who are observing. Yeah, and all the very best. And we'll see you next week. Until then, ciao. Bye-bye.